July Tech 1937. Picture this if you can. A desperate radio call. It's faint, crackling, just echoing out there over the huge emptiness of the Pacific Ocean.
And then just silence.
Complete silence. That was it. The last anyone heard from Amelia Earhart, probably the most famous female pilot in the world at that time, and her navigator, Fred Noonan.
They just vanished,
Poof.
leaving behind, well, one of the biggest mysteries aviation has ever seen.
Absolutely. Her fame, her iconic status, it just made the whole thing even more baffling. It wasn't just a tragic accident. It became this global puzzle overnight. So, today, here on The Deep Dive, our mission is, well, it's to take you, our listener, on a really comprehensive journey. We want to go deep into the sources surrounding this vanishing act.
Yeah, we're going to unpack everything, the final flight, all the details, minute by minute almost.
And the search efforts that follow, they were huge, truly extensive. Plus, we'll explore the theories, and there are a lot of them, ranging from plausible to, well, pretty out there.
Right, often conflicting theories too.
Exactly. But the goal isn't just to list facts. We want to distill all this down, get to the crucial insights, maybe even some surprising ones.
So by the end, you won't just be informed, you'll really get the deeper implications of this huge unsolved puzzle.
Definitely.
And what's really fascinating here, I think, and maybe something people don't always consider, is the context. 1937 aviation.
Right. Different world.
Completely. I mean, this wasn't just a risky trip. It was an era where the most basic safety stuff we have now, reliable weather reports over oceans, standard radio frequencies, just didn't exist.
So every long flight was basically rolling the dice.
Pretty much. An experiment in survival, yeah. Earhart wasn't just pushing boundaries. She was kind of writing the rule book as she went, through trial and, unfortunately, sometimes error.
That circumnavigation attempt.
Yeah.
Incredibly ambitious.
Unprecedentedly ambitious.
Yeah.
And her disappearance, it really became this symbol of the dangers, the huge risks involved in pioneering flight back then. It showed that the sky, while full of promise, was also incredibly unforgiving.
So let's start digging into that journey, beginning with Amelia herself. Born July 24th, 1897, in Atchison, Kansas, and by all accounts, not your typical early 20th century woman.
Not at all.
Yeah.
She had this fiercely independent, adventurous streak right from the start.
Yeah, you hear stories about her childhood, building roller coasters, exploring caves, collecting bugs. Not exactly needlepoint.
Definitely resisting those traditional roles society pushed on women back then.
Yeah.
Always pushing back, clearly not interested in just fitting in.
And that spirit eventually found its focus in flying.
It really did. The big moment, the one that really hooked her, seems to have been in 1920. An air show in Long Beach, California.
You can just imagine it, right? The noise, the spectacle.
Exactly. Biplanes roaring, doing loops. She said she was just captivated, called the planes like jewels. It wasn't just excitement. It was like recognition.
Yeah.
She knew right then she had to fly.
And she didn't waste time. Flying lessons the next year, 1921.
With Nita Snooks, another pioneering female pilot. And by 1923, she had her license. Apparently, she took to it incredibly quickly, just soaked it all up. Real passion.
And that passion quickly launched her onto the world stage. Her first big splash of fame came in 1928.
Ah, the Atlantic crossing.
Right, the first woman to fly across the Atlantic. But, and this is important for listeners, she was a passenger on that flight.
Yeah, Wilmer Stoltz was the pilot, Louis Gordon the co-pilot, but it didn't matter to the media, really.
No, they needed a female hero for this new age of flight, and she was it. Instant international recognition, a symbol of what women could do in aviation.
Even though she famously said she felt like a sack of potatoes on that trip, wishing she'd been flying it herself.
Yeah, which tells you a lot about her.
It really does. And it leads straight into her next even bigger achievement, because what's so compelling is how she used that initial fame. She wasn't content being a passenger.
No way.
So 1932, just 4 years later, she does it again. But this time, solo. First woman to fly solo across the Atlantic. That cemented her place.
Now that was the real deal, a true test.
Absolutely. Flew from Newfoundland, battled terrible weather, icing.
And then landed where? Not quite where planned, right?
No, ended up in a farmer's field in Londonderry, Northern Ireland, after nearly 15 hours. 14 hours and 56 minutes, to be exact. Grueling.
14 hours, 56 minutes solo in 1932. That's just mind-boggling. What were the specific challenges beyond just staying awake? The technology must have been primitive.
Oh, incredibly primitive compared to today. I mean, think about it. Flying alone in basically a metal tube, totally exposed.
No autopilot, I assume.
Definitely no autopilot. She's hand-flying the plane for almost 15 hours straight, fighting fatigue constantly, navigation, mostly dead reckoning.
Which is basically educated guesswork.
Sort of.
Hmm.
Estimating position based on speed, direction, time.
Hmm.
Maybe some celestial fixes with a sextant, if she was lucky and could see the stars or sun. Super hard to do accurately in a bumpy plane over water.
And weather forecasting.
Rudimentary at best. She flew right into severe icing conditions. Ice builds up, adds weight, changes aerodynamics. Huge risk of stalling.
Yeah.
It wasn't just flying. It was a constant battle against everything, weather, exhaustion, the sheer unknown. All alone.
And she didn't just stop there. The 1930s were full of her setting records. Speed, distance, always pushing.
Constantly. But she was more than just a pilot. She became this really powerful voice.
For aviation, obviously, but also for women's rights.
Absolutely. Advocating for women's opportunities. She lectured all the time, encouraging young women to break the mold, get into fields like aviation. She saw flying as this new frontier for female independence.
And she wrote books too, right? Bestsellers?
Yep, sharing her experiences like 20 H's, 40 Men's, and the fun of it, spreading that inspiration globally.
And that independence carried over into her personal life too. Her marriage to George Putnam, the publisher, in 1931. It wasn't exactly conventional for the time.
No, she was very clear about maintaining her own identity, her career. She even gave him a letter before the wedding, outlining her terms, basically.
Saying she needed to remain her own person.
Exactly. And she kept her maiden name professionally, which was a big statement back then. It just underscored her whole approach, forging her own path, being a role model.
So by 1937, the year she disappeared, she's at the absolute peak. Multiple records, one of the most famous women on the planet.
Truly, a symbol of courage, independence, what women could achieve.
Which brings us to the circumnavigation attempt, the big one. Given everything you've said, it makes sense she'd aim for something so audacious. What was the core motivation?
It was that drive, that almost insatiable need to push aviation's limits even further. It wasn't just another record. It was about proving, beyond doubt, that women could handle the toughest challenges in exploration.
And she wanted to do it along the equator, right? First ever.
Yeah, which added unique navigational hurdles, and she'd actually tried it once before. Remember, March 1937.
Oh, right. The first attempt that got aborted. What happened there?
It started from Oakland, heading west. But in Hawaii, during takeoff from Luke Field, the Electra ground looped, damaged the landing gear, propeller, had to abandon it.
Wow. That must have been crushing.
Probably. But it seems like it just made her more determined for the second try, really reinforced her resolve.
And the 1937 plan, the second attempt, was incredibly detailed. Longest, most challenging flight of her life, around 29,000 miles.
Circling the globe near the equator, which meant, crucially, incredibly precise navigation over these huge empty stretches of ocean.
A massive challenge. Few had even attempted anything like it. Required perfection.
Total perfection. And for that, you need the best navigator you can find, which is why she chose Fred Noonan.
Tell us about him. What made him the right choice?
Noonan was hugely experienced, renowned for long-distance celestial navigation. He'd worked for Pan Am, charting routes for their flying boats across the Pacific.
So he knew the Pacific routes.
Knew them intimately. Known for his skill, calm under pressure, reliability. Earhart clearly trusted him implicitly, knew his expertise was absolutely vital for surviving that ocean crossing.
And the aircraft itself, the Lockheed Electra 10E, it was key. Advanced for its day, but heavily modified for this specific trip.
That's right. They called it the Flying Laboratory. It was already a good plane, twin-engine, reliable for distance, but the modifications were significant.
Mostly fuel, I imagine.
Primarily fuel, yeah. They ripped out passenger seats and put in extra tanks right in the fuselage. Boosted capacity from around 200 gallons to a whopping 11,150 gallons.
Wow, that's what allowed for those incredibly long ocean legs.
Exactly, where there were just no refueling options. They also added better navigation gear, like a Bendix radio direction finder. Although, how effective that would be over those distances was a big question mark.
And all that fuel made it heavy.
Incredibly heavy when fully loaded, pushing its limits. Earhart called it her flying office. It was cutting edge, but it was being pushed to its absolute maximum for this unprecedented mission.
Okay, so the stage is set. The journey begins. June 1st, 1937. They take off from Oakland, California.
Heading west this time. Unlike the first attempt. Planned route? South America, Africa, India, Southeast Asia, Australia, and then the big one, the Pacific.
And the early legs went pretty well.
Remarkably smoothly, yeah. Crossed the U.S., down through South America, Miami, Natal, and Brazil. Huge crowds everywhere.
Global media sensation already.
Totally. This was the adventure story of the year. Earhart was front-page news worldwide.
And that success continued across Africa and Asia.
It did, despite some tough weather here and there. Stops in Dakar, Khartoum, Karachi, Calcutta, Rangoon, Singapore, Darwin in Australia.
Wow, just listing them shows the scale.
It's immense. Each leg had its own challenges: extreme heat across the Sahara, navigating over featureless terrain in India. But they kept making good time.
Until they reached Lae, New Guinea.
Right. June 29, 1937, they'd covered about 22,000 miles, almost two-thirds done. Everything looked on track. The world was watching, holding its breath.
But everyone knew, didn't they? The real monster was still ahead. The Pacific crossing.
Absolutely. The ultimate challenge. And the reason is simple, but terrifying. The sheer size of the Pacific, Earth's largest ocean.
Distances between islands are just vast. Thousands of miles of empty water, no landmarks, no emergency landing spots.
Precisely. Which meant navigation had to be absolutely flawless. We're talking pinpoint calculations using the sun and stars.
And reliable radio.
Critically reliable radio communication. Because out there, even a tiny mistaken calculation or radio cutting out for a bit could be fatal. Zero margin for error. A small deviation gets magnified massively over that distance.
So the final critical leg, July 2, 1937, they take off from Lae early morning. Destination, Howland Island.
Point of no return. And Howland Island.
Oh.
It's barely there. A tiny speck, 2 miles long, half a mile wide, middle of nowhere.
Just a tiny dot on the map.
But it was the only possible refueling stop between New Guinea and Hawaii. About 2,556 miles. Expected flight time, roughly 18 hours.
Conditions were okay at the start.
Generally good, yeah. Confidence seemed high.
And there was help waiting near Howland, wasn't there? The Coast Guard cutter Itasca?
That's right. The Itasca was stationed there specifically to help them navigate. Crucial role. Supposed to provide a radio beacon they could home in on, relay messages.
But the technology wasn't quite up to the task.
That's the crux of it. They were using high-frequency HF radio, notoriously fickle over long distances. Atmospheric interference, signals fading in and out, skip zones.
Not like tuning a modern radio.
Not at all, like trying to catch whispers through static. And critically, the Itasca didn't have the really sophisticated direction-finding gear to give Earhart a precise bearing back to them. Nor did it have a super powerful beacon she could easily lock onto. The system was inherently limited.
And as the flight went on, those limitations plus bad luck, things started to unravel.
They really did. The weather changed, clouds rolled in, rain started. Visual navigation became incredibly difficult, maybe impossible.
Couldn't see the horizon, couldn't spot the island.
Exactly. And then the radio problems got worse. Earhart reported she was having trouble hearing the Itasca.
And the Itasca couldn't hear her clearly either.
Right. Messages were faint, broken up. Communication, already tough, became extremely problematic.
Which raises serious questions about their whole communication plan or the lack of robust tech. The final messages sound desperate.
Increasingly so. Around 7:42 a.m., July 2nd, Earhart radios in, low on fuel. Critically, can't see Howland Island.
Oh, wow.
She asked the Itasca to send a strong radio signal so she could find them. But the signal just wasn't strong enough or she couldn't pick it up properly.
So frustratingly close, maybe.
Agonizingly close. Then, after more attempts, at 8:43 a.m., the final message comes through. Chilling.
What did she say?
We are on the line 157337. We will repeat this message. We will repeat this on 600, 210 kilocycles. Wait.
And then nothing.
Nothing, just silence. That was the last word ever heard from Amelia Earhart or Fred Noonan.
So, okay, that last message, 157-3337. What does that actually mean? It sounds like coordinates, but you said it wasn't latitude and longitude.
Right, it's not a specific point on the map. It's what navigators call a line of position, or LOP. Probably calculated by Noonan from some site he took earlier.
A line of position. Explain that a bit more.
Okay, imagine you're driving, and you know you're somewhere on Highway 101, but you don't know exactly where on Highway 101 you are. That's kind of what a single LOP gives you.
So they knew they were somewhere along that line.
Exactly. But without a second LOP crossing it to get a precise fix, or a strong radio signal from Howland to give them a bearing, they were lost. They were close, maybe just miles away, but couldn't pinpoint that tiny island in the clouds and ocean.
On the line, but off target.
Perfectly put. Close enough to sometimes hear the Itasca, but unable to see the island or get a solid radio lock to land. It tells us they were still flying, desperately trying to find it.
And the search started almost right away, didn't it?
Immediately. The U.S. Navy launched this huge operation. At the time, one of the biggest search efforts ever. Multiple ships, loads of aircraft.
Covering a massive area.
Astonishing. Around 250,000 square miles of the Pacific. An unprecedented mobilization.
But even with all that effort, it was hampered.
Severely. The weather stayed bad, high winds, rough seas, storms. Made searching effectively really, really difficult.
And just the sheer size of the Pacific, trying to spot a small plane.
Almost impossible. Like the ultimate needle in a haystack. Despite everything they threw at it, no trace was ever found. Nothing.
How long did the official search last?
They called it off on July 18, 1937, just 16 days after they disappeared. The official conclusion was stark. Ran out of fuel, crashed into the ocean. End of story, officially. That initial search, though, the scale was incredible for the 1930s. Really showed how important Earhart was seen to be. Navy, Coast Guard, instantly mobilized.
Ships, planes.
Destroyers, battleships. The Itasca started searching right away around Howland. Then the Navy sent the battleship Colorado from Pearl Harbor.
And an aircraft carrier.
Yeah, Lexington. That was huge. It carried 62 aircraft just for aerial searching flying grid patterns over the suspected area.
250,000 square miles. That's
Wow.
roughly the size of Texas.
Exactly. It shows a desperation, the hope they might still find them.
But the factors working against them were immense. The weather, as you said, was just awful.
Constantly fighting rough seas, high winds, storms, made searching hard, and might even contributed to them getting lost in the first place. And the sheer size of the ocean. It's hard to even comprehend.
Was it just the U.S. involved?
Mostly. But there was international help, too. The British government assisted, ships from other nearby nations joined in. It really was a global effort, reflecting how famous Earhart was. Highlighted the need for cooperation, even back then.
But despite all that, nothing.
Utterly nothing. No definitive evidence, no wreckage, no life rafts, no bodies, zero.
And that complete lack of any proof is what fuels the mystery, right?
Absolutely. The official conclusion ran out of fuel. Crash was based purely on circumstance. No hard proof. That absence of a smoking gun, that vacuum of evidence just left the door wide open for all the speculation that followed. How could someone so significant just disappear without a trace?
And the search didn't really stop in 1937, did it? It just went private.
Exactly. It never truly ended. Over the decades, numerous private expeditions have gone out, using technology unimaginable in 1937.
Like what kind of tech?
Sophisticated side scans, sonar, autonomous underwater vehicles, AUVs, basically underwater drones, remotely operated vehicles, ROVs, that can explore the seabed. Searching areas the original search couldn't possibly have covered. It's this mix of historical detective work and cutting-edge ocean tech.
Have any of these modern searches found anything concrete?
There have been claims, tantalizing clues, but nothing definitively proven. Sonar might show an anomaly, something shaped like wreckage on the seafloor.
But without actually recovering it.
It remains ambiguous, open to interpretation. Frustratingly, sometimes these finds just add more questions instead of answers.
And the ocean itself works against you, right? Currents, storms.
Hugely underestimated factors. The deep ocean is dynamic. Currents can move debris miles over decades. Storms, underwater landslides, even just sediment buildup can bury or scatter anything that might have been there. Finding the exact spot after nearly 90 years is incredibly tough.
Makes you realize how difficult that original 1937 search really was. They were doing it almost by eye compared to today.
Absolutely. Rudimentary tools, vast ocean. It would have taken immense luck to find anything back then.
So given that lack of hard answers, it's no wonder theories started popping up.
Oh, yeah. Dozens of them over the years, ranging from the totally plausible to the pretty wild.
Reflects our fascination, our need for closure, I guess. Okay, let's dive into some of the main ones, starting with the official conclusion.
Right. Theory number 1. Ran out of fuel, crashed into the ocean. Simple, logical.
Rationale being?
Her last messages reported low fuel. The massive search found nothing. So, the assumption is the plane went into the water, sank quickly, broke up deep down, and the debris got scattered by currents. It fits the known facts, limited as they are.
It's the Occam's razor explanation, sort of. The simplest.
Pretty much. It's the most widely accepted by many aviation historians.
But you mentioned earlier the complete lack of wreckage is still puzzling to some. Why? No floating debris, no oil slick, nothing.
That's the main counter-argument, yeah. Would an Electra sink so fast without leaving any trace? Even briefly. Wings often float, seat cushions, bits of wreckage. The search was huge, but maybe not that thorough everywhere. Could they have missed small pieces? It's that total absence that keeps the door open for other ideas. For some, it just doesn't quite add up.
Which leads to theory 2. The castaway theory. They didn't crash immediately, but landed somewhere remote.
Right. survived for a while as castaways. This theory gets fueled by bits of evidence found on various islands.
And the main focus here is Nikumero Island, right?
Exactly, Nikumero, formerly Gardner Island. It's an uninhabited atoll southeast of Howland. The theory, mainly pushed by TIGR, the International Group for Historic Aircraft Recovery, is fascinating.
What's their scenario?
They suggest Earhart and Noonan missed Howland, flew down that 157-337 line of position until fuel ran out, and then spotted Nikumero's reef. They believe they managed an emergency landing on the flat reef shelf at low tide.
Possible with an Electra.
Just barely, maybe.
Hmm.
The reef is flat and exposed at low tide. TIGR believes they survived on the island for days, maybe weeks, sending out sporadic radio calls before eventually succumbing to injury or lack of resources.
And the evidence for this, it sounds compelling.
It is compelling, but also debated. The key piece was the discovery in 1940 by a British official, Gerald Gallagher. He found partial human skeletal remains.
Human bones.
That's the million-dollar question. He also found artifacts nearby. Part of a woman's shoe, a bottle that might have held freckle cream Earhart used, and a sextant box, possibly Noonan's.
So what happened to the bones?
Tragically, they were sent for analysis, measured, but then lost. The original analysis was inconclusive. But much later in 2016, forensic anthropologist Richard Jantz re-examined the original measurements using modern methods. He concluded the bones were more consistent with Earhart's height and build than 99% of other individuals. TIGR has also found other bits on Nikumero over many expeditions, possible aircraft, aluminum fragments, campsite evidence, signs of fires.
Still, it's not definitive proof.
No. The bone analysis is based on measurements, not the bones themselves. The artifacts could be hers, but aren't definitively linked. Skeptics point out other people visited the island. So it's a really strong, well-researched possibility, but still a theory. And maybe they landed on a different island, too.
Okay, moving on. Theory 3. Captured by the Japanese.
Yeah, this one pops up a lot, especially tied to the pre-WWII intentions.
The context being Japan's expansion in the Pacific.
Right. They controlled the Marshall Islands, which weren't that far off Earhart's general path. The theory goes they strayed into Japanese territory, landed or crashed, and were captured.
And then what? Held prisoner. Executed.
The variations exist. Some say executed as spies, others held as POWs, maybe dying in captivity later on in Saipan or elsewhere. It often involves supposed eyewitness accounts that are hard to verify.
But how likely is this, really? Is there solid evidence?
Very little credible evidence. Most historians consider it unlikely. The Japanese government has always denied it. No wartime documents, Allied intelligence, or verified post-war testimony supports it. That famous photo claiming to show them captured? Debunked, taken years earlier. It remains mostly speculative, fueled by suspicion.
Then there's the spy mission theory, that the whole flight was a cover.
That Earhart was secretly working for the U.S. government, maybe FDR himself, using the flight to spy on Japanese installations in the Pacific Mandates.
What's the evidence for that?
It's purely circumstantial. Her connections to people in power, the flight path going near strategically interesting areas, the idea that her fame provided the perfect cover.
But again, actual proof.
Zero. No documents, no credible reports, no deathbed confessions, nothing. It's widely considered a conspiracy theory by serious researchers. There's just no factual basis to suggest she was anything other than an aviator attempting a record.
Okay, one more main theory. Simple mechanical failure.
Right. The Electra was advanced, but still, 1930s tech. Long flights over oceans pushed planes to their limits.
So, engine failure, structural problem. Something just broke.
Could be. An unexpected catastrophic failure forcing them down. Maybe a navigational equipment failure compounded the problem. It's certainly plausible, given the stresses on the aircraft.
But didn't you say her last messages didn't mention mechanical trouble?
That's the main weakness, yeah. Her final transmissions were all about fuel and navigation. Nothing about engines sputtering or systems failing. Why wouldn't she mention it if something was going wrong with the plane?
Unless it was sudden, catastrophic.
That's the only way it fits. A sudden, unrecoverable event, like a stall or structural failure, that gave them no time to radio. Possible, but less likely based on her last known communications focusing elsewhere.
So, regardless of which theory, if any, is true, her disappearance had a massive impact.
Absolutely profound.
Yeah.
Immediate shock through the aviation world.
Led to changes. Safety improvements.
Definitely. Increased focus on safety protocols, better navigation standards for long flights, and big lessons learned about search and rescue, the need for better coordination, better technology. That huge failed search wasn't entirely in vain. It spurred improvements.
And her impact specifically on women in aviation.
Immense. She was this towering role model. Her loss was a blow, a stark reminder of the dangers. But her legacy, it continues to inspire women today to go into aviation, engineering, science. Her achievements still resonate, showing what's possible against the odds. Countless female pilots and astronauts point to her as an inspiration.
And in popular culture, she's become almost mythical.
Totally, one of the ultimate unsolved mysteries. Books, movies, documentaries, the 2009 film Amelia, endless TV specials.
Part of American folklore, really. The brave pilot who vanished chasing her dream.
It taps into that fascination with the unknown, with heroic figures meeting tragic ends.
The search itself has had its own legacy too, right? In aviation archaeology.
Yes, significantly. The ongoing hunt for Earhart has really pushed the development of techniques for finding underwater wreckage, better sonar, better underwater robots.
And inspired searches for other lost planes.
Exactly. And, ironically, searching for Earhart has sometimes led to finding other things. Shipwrecks, wartime artifacts in the Pacific, inadvertently adding to our knowledge of that whole region's history.
It also makes you think about investigation itself, doesn't it? How some mysteries might just stay mysteries.
It forces us to confront the limits. Evidence degrades, gets lost. Chance plays a huge role. And it highlights how far technology has come since 1937, both for flying and for searching, new ways to preserve and analyze whatever tiny clues might still be out there.
The international cooperation during the search was also notable.
It was a multinational effort, showing how countries could work together. It set a precedent, and it created this dedicated community of researchers, enthusiasts, still digging, still debating, still funding expeditions today. They keep the story alive.
And finally, there's the aspect of fame, ambition.
Yeah, disappearing right at her peak.
Yeah.
A reminder of how fragile life is, even for global icons. The price of fame, the risks taken for dreams, it's all wrapped up in her story. And the focus on the Pacific has definitely boosted interest in that region's history and archaeology, too.
So here we are, decades later, investigations, expeditions, theories. But the truth about what happened to Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan, still unknown.
Still out there, somewhere in the Pacific, perhaps. But it's more than just the puzzle. It's what she represented.
Courage, independence.
The potential of women. Disappearing at the height of it all just adds this layer of tragedy, cementing her as this enduring icon.
And it's a stark reminder of the risks, isn't it? Early aviation was incredibly dangerous.
Skill, courage, and a whole lot of luck were needed. They were pushing the absolute limits of what was possible then. Their disappearance shows the price sometimes paid for that kind of ambition.
So after diving deep into all this,
what does it mean for you listening? Amelia Earhart's story isn't just history. It's not just a mystery. It's really a testament to human determination, the drive to explore.
and a reminder that maybe not all questions get answered.
Maybe not. But the quest for answers, the lessons we learn along the way, that's what matters. Her story makes you think, doesn't it? What boundaries are you willing to push, even knowing the risks involved in reaching for something extraordinary?